I know, guys, probably not the next review that you guys were expecting. I have been taking it a little bit easier on the channel lately, but I did see Pearl. I actually saw it twice in the, same day. The day that it came out. And I fucking loved it. It's just I wasn't sure if I was actually going to review it because I was actually not huge on X, which I actually watched X right after, the 2 times that I saw Pearl in the same day. I came home, watched X, still wasn't big on it. But I know it is a little bit late, so if you guys would like to still see that review, let me know. I would gladly see it again and definitely talk about it. But let's talk about Jeepers Creepers Reborn first. So I was actually a little bit excited upon seeing this, building up to the day that I was actually to see it, which was tonight. It's a new Creeper film in the theater. It's a Fathom event, so a lot of people probably weren't going to be going to see this movie. I don't know too many people that would want to spend $15 plus on a ticket to a 4th entry in the Jeepers Creepers franchise, restarting the fucking series. That didn't look very good as it was, but let's just get into this. So again, this is a Fathom event presentation, much like the last review I did, Clerks 3. Director comes out and does a little speech before the movie begins, and he's given a little bit lore on the Creeper, also stating that he was extremely passionate about this movie. He's a huge fan of the original film, which I gotta say, I'll say this. I wanted this movie to be fucking good at this point, and I thought it actually might be. This wasn't a small speech either. This was a 10 fucking minute speech or some shit before the movie. But getting into the actual movie, so immediately when the movie begins, and what the audience will get as well, especially fans of, the original film, is that this guy is a fan of Jeepers Creepers. Right off the bat, the film opens almost mirroring the first film's intro, which as a fan, that was, really sweet to see. But with the original film's opener being, such an iconic, horror movie intro, maybe even one of my favorites, I understand this director's idea, as a fan as well. Wanting to have fun with the other fans and everything in a sense. But I'll say this. What really sounds like the winner of the two? The iconic intro with Derry and Trish opening up that movie, or basically the same intro with unknown actors in a reimagined Fathom event movie? Which, no disrespect to the director, I got it, but it just delivered in a way that you expected, a movie to not fully deliver. But this intro still does have things to its own self. It's not a complete copy and paste from the original. It does borrow and pay massive homage to that, yes. But what I'll also say is that the film does accept that it is kind of a retelling. And as this movie went on, we did start to see more references to the original, and it started to be kind of fun. Again, just not nearly as good as the original. And I think that is just in the sense of me being a fan, just kind of doing this scavenger hunt. Now, I will say this, once we get past this point, we actually get to the point of meeting the actual main characters of this movie. It actually caught me off guard because we're actually introduced with these characters talking about the Creeper, talking about how, every 23 years, it kind of, begins its feeding cycle. And one of them is looking at a viral video on his phone of supposedly the Creeper resurfacing, while the other person's all didn't they make a movie about this guy? And then the dude's yeah, I think 3 of them. And I'm just really? You're pulling the Scream on us? Yeah, that kind of caught me off guard because I'm wait a minute. So this is supposed to be a retelling, a reimagining, however you want to look at it. A new, franchise starting, but it's connected to the others, maybe? But now what I do want to address is that, as we go forward now, getting the first, taste of the new Creeper, I will say, he comes nothing close, man. Nothing close. That original Creeper, played by Jonathan Breck, will forever be the Creeper. Kind of use for example, the new Leprechaun in the Leprechaun reboot, compared to Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis is Leprechaun, come on. But yeah, his opener, man, I just didn't really vibe with it at all. I do think that the Creeper's face here was probably the most, closest aspect and most, well done aspect, as, as well as, if they're actually trying to compare it to the original. But I will say, This Creeper, it does have some original tactics to it, but they just, like, weren't that exciting. They weren't that big of a deal. A lot of his, like, new tactics, they kind of feel, like, borrowed from, like, other, like, horror villains. Like, he's got this, like, new face hugger moves where, like, the fangs that come out that we've seen in the original movie, they can now, like, wrap around the person and, like, suffocate them. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, we didn't need that, but alright. I just feel like if you're gonna redo, you know, this much of the movie, of the original movie already up to this point, you might as well, you know, make the Creeper the Creeper? You know what I mean? And now I'll say this, going forward with the characters, you know, and kind of like waiting on the movie to really unfold, there is some setup here that felt like, I shit you not, dude, it felt like a fucking R.L. Stine movie adaptation. We see these characters in like this oddity shop with this like psychic who's like being really cryptic, and we're like seeing these visions that we don't really know any idea of like what they're relating to, but we kind of do because it's kind of cliche. It's just not, you know, openly addressed in the movie, which at this point it started to feel kind of like a different movie, which is not good because the movie hadn't even really started yet. We're still like, you know, in the first act. We haven't even really seen the Creeper yet. But once we get a little bit further in now, where we actually see these characters, you know, at this Halloween event that we were teased with in the trailer, obviously, you know, before the fucking creepy house, I was actually surprised with just how much the film centers on these characters, which is usually a pretty big issue if, you know, your movie does not, you know, flesh out your characters. But I just gotta say, guys, like, for an event like this, like, you know, the next Jeepers Creepers film in the franchise, a theatrical release, you know, a retelling, you know, from the ground up, woo! And with how much the director of this movie was, like, hyping it up, you know, as a big Jeepers Creepers fan, there just wasn't enough Creeper, man. There wasn't not enough Creeper. There's not nearly enough, if any, setup to him. The kills that he kind of, like, is introduced with, you know, obviously, you know, as he's leading up, you know, to the main characters, you know, he's doing his, you know, Creeper nonsense. And I will say, like, I was not excited for it, man. And I'll even say this now. There is a reference at a point in the movie that I would have actually had a lot of fun with, you know, if the film was, like, actually, you know, set on the route of, like, this being, like, a Jeepers Creepers 4. Like, that's really the only way that this reference could work, so it was kind of confusing. But it all goes back to the Creeper, you know, which kind of contradicts it, because it's like, well, obviously this isn't, you know, our Creeper, and he's got all these moves that were never really addressed in the other movies. And again, you know, I get what the director was going for, you know, as a fan of, you know, Jeepers Creepers and, you know, wanting to give the original Die Hard fans, you know, a treat. I get it, but like, you know, and also wanting to make your own original movie, but it just was not executed in any real concrete way. Which now I will talk about that point in the trailer, you know, where we did see the creepy-ass house. It's strange because this movie really does take its time with, you know, setting up these characters and, you know, with its pacing and even revealing the Creeper as well as, you know, introducing the other characters that eventually fall into the mix. But there was just one thought that kept on coming back to me. This movie's only 88 minutes. And now I'll add this, you know, connecting to that. There's been many times where I've talked about films where, you know, the last act has either, like, you know, lost its streak, or by that point, you know, the actors just kind of seem uninterested. And I will say, man, this film hits home on that. These characters start going in just every unwanted way possible. You know, they start getting predictable, cliche, stupid, cringe. And with saying that, mind you, we still haven't even fully seen the fucking Creeper yet. The Creeper hasn't even met these fools yet. But what I was actually impressed by, though, was how the last act actually sets up. There's a point in the film, which I'm not going to spoil, obviously, but where it actually, you know, could get things going in a forward film. I just wish it wasn't like, you know, the last 20 fucking minutes of the movie. And, you know, even going more forward, aside from this now, the movie does admittedly just kind of get worse. We actually see that, you know, introduction to the Creeper, you know, his, you know, scene of fame. And I gotta say, guys, the effects here, they're debatably worse than Jeepers Creepers 3's. I'm not even shitting you. And aside from this, though, like, the Creeper, like, there is some fun interaction with that character. I just wish it wasn't this late into the fucking movie. But as far as, like, my last take on the film that I think I can give, what it comes down to is that this movie just didn't have a lot. Things don't really make any sense. Things don't really add up. And when you look back at it, like, on the drive home, all I was thinking about after seeing this movie was, so what was the movie actually about? What was the actual plot here? In the first movie, it worked, you know, because this creature, we didn't know what it was, and it was supposed to be cryptic. You know, we didn't know why he scattered out, you know, these particular people. All we knew was that he had this, you know, feeding cycle, and then eventually, you know, we get that minor detail that is just, well, depending on the person's fear, that's what he goes after more. You know, the more scared that the person is, the tastier they are. And, you know, yes, its feeding cycle, it is addressed here, but other than that, there's no imagination here. But in saying that, this is, yes, said to be the new, first entry in a new franchise, so hopefully, you know, things will just get better from here. I mean, that's all we can really hope for. I probably won't be watching those sequels, but, you know, I'd be curious about the references to the Creeper, and at least would be hopeful for more successful connection if that is the route that they want to go down. Overall, guys, I'm going to give Jeepers Creepers Reborn a 2.2 to a 2.3 out of 10 at least. Again, you know, there is plenty of homage and plenty of, you know, potential loose connections to the original film, but aside from that, guys, there's just no imagination. But yes, guys, that is going to do it for my Jeepers Creepers Reborn review. Let me know what you guys thought about the video, as well as for those few that did see the movie down below. Again, it is a limited release. It is a Fathom event. This wasn't, you know, being, you know, laid out to be a big deal in the first place, and to me it really wasn't. But that is just my opinions. Let me know what you guys thought about down below. I hope you guys liked the video. My next review will be Don't Worry Darling on the 22nd. And again, guys, going back to that Pearl review, let me know if you guys want it. Shit, I would love to see Pearl a third fucking time in the theater, guys. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yes, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys are having a great night. Take care.